Good morning. What's going on, guys? It is Monday. What a beautiful day. I gotta say, it's gonna be one hell of a week. I expect a lot of volatility this week, so be cautious about that. But it's gonna be an interesting week. And I actually think, however we close out this week, and pretty much on the note of being a bearish or bullish kind of week, I do believe that we are going to see the follow through into the year end more so is going to be the interesting factor. And if it's actually going to be a bearish ending closing to this week, I actually think that'll actually lead right in towards the beginning of the new year. And that is going to be something that's pretty catastrophic. But nonetheless, it's going to be an interesting week. We got a lot of different headlines, a lot of different economic data that's going to be coming out this week. So strap on. I will say be careful this week more so than others. I think you'll likely be getting a nice little follow through, a nice continuation going into next week. So don't feel the pressure of trying to really get sized up on a lot of your positions going into this week. You're going to have a lot of seesaw events. I don't know if you actually took a look in the day trade channel where Avery actually dropped a lot of his morning little outlook here, but the one thing that actually stood out to the fact is that we have so much data. This morning, we actually have the consumer inflation data that's expected. Nothing beyond that. I don't expect too much to be given out for that in terms of price action wise. But then tomorrow we got CPI. Wednesday we have the FOMC, right, with the whole rate change. And then Thursday drop it off with jobless claims and retail sales, right? And then to top it all off, then we come on Friday and we have PMI with triple witching. So it's not going to be a fun week in terms of this volatility because you're going to I'm sure someone's going to end up getting trapped in terms of entering before economic data or having a position they shouldn't overnight, and you're going to see that shit go south. That's pretty much one of the bigger things that I want to say and kind of caution about going into this week. So, my biggest thing that I would probably say is wait for the data and then likely just day trade the day itself. And more so, what I would probably say. Because trying to swing this particular week in which you're going to have a lot of economic data coming out is going to be rather troublesome. All right, you're going to see a lot of head swings in different directions. All right. But actually, let's get into SPY real quick. I will say that end of day dump that we had to close out last week on Friday, that was rather disgusting. I gotta say, within a matter of what about 30 minutes or so, we ended up dropping about near 3 points on SPY. Was absolutely filthy, and I'm sure a lot of you ended up missing that move. More so because of the fact that it's the end of a Friday. I don't think anyone's particularly holding a 0 day in that case through the last 30 minutes of the day in terms of expiration being right there. So if you ended up getting some forward expirations going into this week and you held through that dump, wow, congrats, kudos to you because you had some balls of steel to go through that and actually had the guts to hold through the weekend. So kudos to you if you made bank on that, but that was rather unexpected. But let's actually get into price action here. The bigger thing that stands out is that obviously the nice little shaded area makes up an overall ascending channel action that I have, in which SPY has more so pretty much respected for the most part, either rejection or follow through or gapping up above that median of this overall channel. And what actually stands out now is that we've actually entered the bottom half of this overall ascending channel action, and with support approaching here, going down towards the 100-day EMA on this daily chart, you're looking at 392.22. If we see regression into the red territory this morning, and then below that, we're looking at 390.51. And ultimately, where I believe that we need to defend going into some really critical data here for this week into FOMC, rather, we do need to end up defending 388.37. So that's pretty much what I'm looking for in the next 2 to 3 days here going into that FOMC is I do want to see that the market defends 388.37 and we don't particularly end up falling off a cliff going into data. All right. So that's what I'm going to look at. In terms of upside, as we see the market is kind of trying to gap up here, I do want to see the follow through above that 20-day EMA, in which case we're going to look to break out above 395.51. Watch to see if that's going to be a rejection spot here at the open. Because what may end up happening is that as we gapped up here this morning, we may get a nice little pump right at the opening bell. But then it'll be very interesting to see if we end up rejecting that 20-day EMA at 395 half, and then it takes us right back down. In which case, now we're going to start to talk about those support levels at that 392, 390 spot. All right. So 395 half is going to be rather critical to get a follow through in terms of getting a nice trend day here to start building. Otherwise, if we reject the 395 half, like I said, that'll likely be the spot where you look to go short and you trade it down towards 392, right back again, in which that'll be about a $3 drop that we should relatively see. All right. I'm more so in the camp that I'm looking more so for us to get a regression off of this little morning gap up. I was actually looking for our three hidden monsters. Tesla was actually in the green territory at one given point. I think it's actually in the red right now if I actually look at it. So yeah, Tesla's already showing weakness here this morning. Just glancing out to Apple, Apple's relatively flat to green here, more so, and also the fact that Apple's actually already gotten a rejection off of that daily 20 EMA from the closure of last week's week. That was a disgusting rejection at that 145 half. So I'm not expecting too much upside off of that, but keep an eye if it breaks over 143.47. Then we'll see if there's any follow through to retest that 20-day EMA. All right. And then the last one out of the three-handed monsters I wanted to take a look at was looking at Microsoft. And Microsoft is relatively green. I'm looking out towards a zone that I have here that actually has pretty much been a rejection spot more so for Microsoft, and that's looking at 247.27 up towards 248.13 for a rejection potentially to be on deck if we get a little bit of a follow through on this morning gap up. All right. So if we pretty much look at it across the board right now, Tesla is pretty much your relative weakness. Apple is relatively flat more so. We'll wait to see if there's going to be any directional move on that. And then Microsoft actually has a little bit of a potential to pop. But if it does not break above 248, that'll likely be the spot where you'll see the regression. And more so, I would anticipate Tesla actually leads us towards that downside if be the case that it's actually has that relative weakness as of right now. All right. So that's the bigger thing is going to be distinguishing where's your relative weakness, where's your strength. Look to pretty much look at those big three key names that I just went through, and then look to your pretty much your more smaller names within the mix. Obviously, we've seen the rally that Netflix gave us last week, and I'm sure El Lobo was probably in some Netflix calls last week, as that was just absolutely a monstrous move that Netflix gave us, pushing up towards that 330 mark last week. Let's see if there's any kind of follow through. Is it actually green this morning? Yeah, it is actually green this morning. So rather interesting on Netflix as well. But keep an eye on Netflix, and then beyond Netflix, then look for the semis to see how the semis are actually performing as well this morning. Which, as of right now, Nvidia is relatively flat, and AMD is continuing to show relative weakness, which it has done these past few days. I could probably say a week already, more so 2 weeks. All right. So that's pretty much what I will say right now. There's not more so a directional move just yet. I would likely favor to pretty much test that 390 spot, 390 to 392, and that'll be more so the given spot of whether you look to buy the dip opportunity or you look for the short if we get up above testing that pretty much rejection of the 20 EMA. You look for that 395 half to go short. So that's basically what I'm looking at is either to go short at 395 half or looking to buy the dip as we approach in as low as 390 half. And that basically gives you that $5 window that we'll likely be trading here today. If we end up breaking beyond above the 20-day EMA, above 395, that'll likely signify that we potentially have a nice trend day on our hands, right? Otherwise, vice versa, we break below 392. Now you already see, okay, first PT is dating out towards 390.51, and below that 388.37, which must be defended. Otherwise, it's going to be a brutal just bleeding that we're gonna get, and we'll likely see us fall off a cliff more so, going ahead of the FOMC, which I would hate to see end up happening. All right. But other than that, I think that kind of covers just the basis of just things I'm looking at across the board. I could probably look at the VIX. Let's see how the VIX actually looks this morning. And I actually had the descending channel action on the VIX here. We are approaching my resistance that I have noted here is 24.68. So that'll be something that I watch for. If we do get that little bit of regression that I was looking at towards that 392, then we could probably see this pop towards that 24.68 and then see if we get support to hold at 392. And then that'll give us a nice little gap fill here on the VIX below. And we'll see a nice little trend as the market will push right back up. So that's something that's rather intriguing. Otherwise, we break above 25. I think that's right when we're flirting with danger. And then that'll also put SPY below the 392. We'll likely be pushing into 390 if that. And then that'll be something where you want to decide for, okay, do we see the continuation on the VIX beyond 25 and SPY breaking below 390? Or do we end up getting rejection at that 25 spot on the VIX and then the 392 ends up holding. All right. So that's pretty much another thing that I'll keep an eye on. Just big levels though, 24.68 and above that, I would keep an eye at 25.21 for your next level of resistance on the VIX. More so, I want to favor this gap fill, but we may end up getting a little bit of a pop on the VIX before we get that reversal right back to the upside, is what I would favor as of right now. All right. Other than that, let's actually see if there's anything actually trending this morning. Let me see if there's any tickers that are particularly trending at the moment. Nothing that's actually on the radar in terms of names that I'm too familiar with. Looks like RH is a name that's trending. Okay, so it looks like earnings ended up happening on this one. You got about a $3.50 drop so far on this. Do look like support is sitting around this 262 spot. So about another $3 to the downside. We'll see if that support holds. Let's see what else is on the list here that's trending this morning. Another name is Coupa Software. That is a hell of a gap up. El Lobo, this seems like your kind of ticker right here. That is one strong gap up, kind of pushing right into that daily 200 EMA right now at 82 spot. I would watch to see if there's any follow through above 82. But in terms of a nice little regression, I would say if you're looking for the potential buy the dip type of spot on this, I would look for 76 half, look for 76 half to hold, and then you take this right back above this pre-market high of the 78 and three quarters, and then look for breakout beyond $82 and above beyond $82. I believe you trade this up towards 90 and a half is what I'm looking at. But that is a strong gap up, $16 gap up on this stock, about 27%. Absolutely ridiculous on this. Let's see if there's anything else that catches my attention right now. Actually, not. I mean, there's not really much else that's pretty much on the radar here this morning. So rather quiet. Coop getting a quiet. Okay, then that definitely explains why the hell that's about a 20 something percent gap up. Makes a lot more sense right now. Before the TGT buyout price is probably met already. Oh wow, 10-4. All right, that's definitely gonna be an interesting one. I mean, I would look for the retest. Look, see how it actually holds at 76 half. Maybe it actually is there for a day trade opportunity, but I don't believe that liquidity is probably gonna be a good thing on this either. So that's probably something that I would definitely check with the liquidity before you try to even day trade this. All right, Coop is not a trade. I can't blame you. I wouldn't touch this. I'm not even gonna front with you. I would not touch this ticker at all. So that's something I would definitely move on from. Let's see if there's anything else to take a look at. Let's see actually how PayPal. It looks like PayPal actually had something going on this morning. All right, price action looks disgusting. There's nothing here I want to look at either. Absolutely disgusting. I would probably say look to see if you hold right around 72.84, but there's nothing there that says I want to pretty much look to trade that at all. Let me see what else is trending this morning. Qualcomm looks to be something of the headlines this morning. Qualcomm looks to be pretty much bleeding out. We did actually break pretty pivotal support here at this 180, 118 mark. I would look favor this gap fill to be pretty much filled here. If I was actually looking more so for a day trade, I wouldn't mind Qualcomm, if especially if we get the regression, as you see we are getting here this morning already. I would look to see if we get this gap fill below 114 and a half, and that'll be about a near what point and a half gap fill that you're looking. So I do like this one. Look to see if you can retest the 118, and that might end up being the spot to particularly get into that short, and then trade it down towards testing the gap fill at that 114 half. So that would be a pretty interesting one here for a day trade. Otherwise, if you do not end up getting a retest back up towards that 118 where it ended up breaking below, I would watch for the escalation here below 115.73. Watch for continuation below. All right. So that would be another one to pretty much keep an eye on. Prachi ENPH. This has actually been a rather popular ticker for a lot of people, I will say. Uh, Tight little range that you're trading here. If I were to pretty much give you where I would say in terms of getting the short opportunity, I would watch for this to break down below 311. Below 311, you could trade this down as low as particularly going down towards 198. So 311, you take it down to 298. Otherwise, for upside here, if you do get any kind of particular bounce, I would look to see if you get a move back above 322 and then I would feel a little more comfortable trying to trade this above from that Friday high of 326 half, and then getting that further upside action. All right, but 311 should get you that breakdown, and then I should end up taking this down towards 298 for your most meaningful level of support. All right, let's see what else. DKNG is dumping. Eh, yeah, it actually broke some meaningful support. I would say this should end up trading down towards about 13, near 13 flat, about 13 and a quarter is what I'm looking at for a first level of support. And then below that is 1297 is what I'm looking at for your next level. PDD, isn't PDD China? Is China actually doing bad this morning? I would assume. All right, so PDD is breaking down, so I would assume Baba's breaking down here this morning as well. Yep, so you got some regression here going on with China. I mean, Baba's already been on a monster run. Those of you who actually read the newsletter a few weeks back, 2 weeks back, that was a monstrous run that Baba already had. It's been getting close enough to that 200-day EMA. So watch for support 88.56 here on Baba and look to see if that ends up holding as support for a reversal right back to the upside. All right. Other than that, though, I will pretty much wrap it up. That was your opening bell, guys. Again, trade safe, trade light, ahead of all the pretty much volatility that we're likely going to experience this week. But other than that, I will leave the stream up for about a few minutes here, about the next 10 minutes or so. And then if any questions, just drop it in the chat there. All right, guys. Other than that, have a great day, guys.